Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I am now doing a part 2 for Jess Franco's 1998 Lust for Frankenstein American version. Please watch part 1 to get all the beginnings, and now I'm just going to continue on. There's also this wild whipping sequence in this movie that is violent and abrasive and kind of a sucker punch. And it's within this sequence and many other sequences and kind of all the sequences put together within Lust for Frankenstein that you experience the dangerous wildness of Jess Franco's cinema. That Jess Franco's movies are indeed dangerous. They're off the hinges. They exist in another reality with other rules, no boundaries, another language, renegade, rebellious. I believe that when you watch a Jess Franco film, when you watch Lust for Frankenstein, you are watching the most dangerous cinema you can watch, and that's my opinion there. And we have this awesome sequence involving this whipping, mixing with a hanging, a death, and in the shadows also, a shadowed murder, a shadowed hanging. We have this awesome naked body, kind of pressed into a glass table, and the camera shooting from below, watching the nipples, watching the breasts just being smushed onto the glass table. I think of the John Hughes film 16 Candles. There's a great scene at the end of this wild house party where they push aside the drinks and you look under the glass table, and Anthony Michael Hall is pushed up there as if he's trapped underneath. And in Jess Franco's Lust for Frankenstein 1998 American version, you see Michelle Bauer's completely naked body just pressed there, and it just looks great, and it just looks it's just sexual and awesome. And you take those scenes and you also mix them with the elements of, a naked woman snoring on a couch. The same woman, Michelle Bauer. And you think to yourself, I don't think Michelle Bauer has ever done another movie before in the full nude where she's snoring. A snoring woman, I gotta go back on this, a snoring woman is not typically looked at as appeasing to people. And in Franco's world, the man who embraces all of the curves and the lips and the insides and the outsides of female sexuality, and also a naked woman snoring on a couch. We have unbridled sexuality in this film, unbridled sex in this film, where the Frankenstein monster, we are entering into the sexuality of the Frankenstein monster. There is talk of a golden cord. Is that the hermaphroditic thing of the monster? I'm not exactly sure, but a golden cord. Is that near the monster's vagina? Wild. So wild. We have this hot, crazy, oral strip club sequence in this movie that really follows a lot of kind of horror movie tropes in terms of, kind of luring someone from the strip club back to your abode. It's awesome. But there's an element in this film too where we are really focusing on butts, and you start off with the butt in a thong or in panties, and then we take the thong off, or we take the panties off, and we continue the sex. And it just brings a whole level of tease into hotness and sexuality there, which I thought was awesome. And you'll see that girl, the stripper girl, and I want to see if I can just get her name. I'm blanking on her name. I think it's Amber Newman, who was also in Tender Flesh. And I believe that Amber Newman met Franco at Chiller Convention in New Jersey or something, around this time frame, and entered into his films. I believe something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. We have Great Thunder some thunder and lightning all of a sudden when we are working with some Dr. Frankenstein's medical equipment, and it's dark in the room. We have great Frankenstein monster boots that Michelle Bauer is wearing. They're platform, they're kind of gold, and they're sexy, and they're monster, and they're everything. Um, there's this amazing scene in here that I have to mention where, because the Frankenstein monster is completely naked for the whole film, has great makeup stitches on her body. And then all of a sudden, she gets some clothes and she has her shirt open to expose her breast still, even when she has clothes on. And Lena Romay's character says, I gave you clothes. And I think she says something like, because the dialogue is hard to hear sometimes in these one-shot productions, you're more provocative with clothes on. And then the monster says this quote, I like to be provocative. And it's in that section that you think to yourself, are these the themes of Jess Franco? Is this Jess Franco? Looking at nudity, looking at clothing, and looking at the core of his art. We have lots of statues in this film, as I mentioned. There's also look for a Killer Barbie's poster in the movie. And all these references, these are films I've looked at on this YouTube page, so you can find them. We have ghostly yellow visages in this film. This awesome sequence with the opening and the shutting of a door in this nightmare horror reflection scape. Yes, the door just opens and shuts in this nightmare horrorscape, and blinding bright light, just blinding, not totally making out the images, a double tongue licking of a bloody knife, and the lens flares off of the knife, even though you can barely make out the images because it's blasting, and the lens flare blasting on the bright light. Just, when was the last time you thought that bright light was haunting or creepy or horrific? And here it is. I saw a spider web beyond a bed that might be from the other Franco film, Mary Cookie and the Killer Tarantula. I think it might have been near the end of the film, near the end of this film. Which I've also looked at on this YouTube page. And, this is 1998's Jess Franco's Lust for Frankenstein, the American version. What's interesting about this film? In the original Frankenstein from Universal, you have this empathy for the Frankenstein monster. He was put together, he was given a criminal brain, he was put together, all these different body parts. He has uncontrollable urges that he cannot... he murders that little girl by the pond or the lake, and it's as if he doesn't know what he's doing. He's trying to figure out reality. He's emotional. He doesn't realize the power of his hands or his body, and he's angry and he's confused. And in Lust for Frankenstein, Jess Franco is bringing that same empathy to a character with unbridled sexual passions and needs and desires. And there is a level of feeding that needs to happen, whether it be masturbation or sexual, sex with her master's daughter, and she's in a glass case, at times, and she's in tune to sexual prowess elsewhere. And in terms of the sexuality, we have some gynecological shots. We have rubbing on vaginas. We see a penis, but we have faces in butts, faces in vaginas, full nudity, shaved vaginas, hairier vaginas. And so it's all here. Tons and tons of nudity, lots of sleaze and sexuality and sexual energy and sexual weirdness and surrealism. It's all here, folks. Jess Franco's 1998 Less for Frankenstein, the American version. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarre YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like this film. Please feel free to check out all my other reviews, tons of Jess Franco and tons of other directors and genres. It's all here, folks. And please feel free to check out my own personal films at youtube.com/poopydiarrhea. And that's POOPY diarrhea.com. Thank you so much, folks, and have a great night.